Hey everybody, Jason Burmis here, and yes, we don't have them all, but we have a bunch of these documents, and we're going to get there in a moment. For instance, let's just take a look right over here, and they've been posted online. I think this is 133 pager, and the other one's 170 or 80, 186 pager. So there's going to be more and more of these coming out. I think these are 1 and 3. Now, I noticed that if you look at the numbers here and the petitions filed, a lot of these docketed documents over here, I actually had them. And those are the ones that I've been going through. And we were talking about what was going to be redacted and what wasn't. So you can see some of the numbers on these dockets here. And then also in a previous folder that I had here. So that in that sense, you know, some of this information isn't that new. But then again, if you have been following it and all this other stuff, there is a lot of minutia to go through. However, now we have some of the more disturbing stuff. I mean, you're looking at why some of this stuff had to be redacted. This is one photograph revealing, well, you can imagine, prepubescent young girl. So we're going to go deep into these documents right here. I believe below this one is actually some scans of original messages here. Okay, and we still have things that are blacked out. And these are the Guthrie Roberts documents here. All right, so we're going to go through some of those. And here's the deal. People are still being protected right here. And you can see it. So we're going to go as deep as we can into these docs. Now, I want to recommend that a lot of you guys out there go and check out at Trey Billion, Big Fish. He is doing some of the best work in going through this and posting some of the relevant information over the last 30 minutes, okay? So here are the exhibits. I hadn't even gotten these yet. Wow. So let's see if I can get the PDF file and download that as well and save it. Let's get that, show in folder, and bam. Okay. I mean, we got a lot of work to do here, but we're going to look at those pictures that have been put out there. Now, before we get there, okay, and I want to go all the way back up to there. There we go. Before we get there, I want to say that, you know, Big Fish is being really fair here. There's a ton of different documentation, and yes, this is one of the photographs that's being revealed in there, obviously redacted for many a reason. But let's go back here. This is something that's in there. Now, if you notice, I want to kind of dissect this. Dershowitz is saying that this shows that Guthrie made up the whole thing. He never met her. She never met him, etc., etc., etc. Which, again, I'm not here to make a judgment on that. What we have here is an email from the Daily Mail. Okay, now the Daily Mail paid her for her story, but she was, able to have some of that story corroborated by the FBI, and I would assume the Daily Mail. That might be what they're talking about. Now, pitching this to the editor and their story. They say, don't forget Alan Dershowitz, J.E.'s buddy and lawyer. Good name for your pitch, as he repped Klaus von Bülow, and a movie was made about that case. Title was Reversal of Fortune. We all suspect Alan is a pedo, and though no proof of that, you probably met him when he was hanging out with Jeffrey Epstein. Now, the question is, did they put this in her mind, or perhaps did she mention them, and, then they re-brought it up and said, this is one of the people we want you to mention for the story. With the last sentence, it's hard to make that argument. but we're putting it out there. Now, also, when we talk about Ghislaine Maxwell, this is part of it. In an undisputed fact that multiple witnesses deposed in this case have testified the defendant operated as a convicted pedophile, Jeffrey Epstein's procurer of underage girls. It is an undisputed fact that Joanna Sojberg testified. The defendant lured her from her school to have sex with Epstein under the guise of hiring for a job of answering phones. It is undisputed the fact that Tony Figueroa testified that defendant would call him to bring over underage girls, and that defendant and Epstein would have threesomes with Guffrey. So, Tony Figueroa, let's look him up. I don't know much about him. This is the first male procurer I've seen. So, there's his name. Tony Figueroa. Huh. I don't know if this is him. Let's go with Epstein. Yep, here we go. Let's see. So Epstein is one of these people, huh? Or I'm sorry, Figueroa. Let's see. Here it is. Here we go. In another deposition, including the unsealed documents, Tony Figueroa, Epstein's former bodyguard, okay, so it's his bodyguard, testified that Guffrey told him about threesomes with herself, Maxwell, and Epstein involving strap-ons, and claimed that Epstein wanted Guffrey to have sex with Prince Andrew, Maxwell, and all the other girls. Oof. All right, so let's continue on with some of the actual documents. In an undisputed fact that Rinaldo Rizzo testified. So these are probably a lot of his employees that have finally, rolled over, and maybe they were protected from prosecution. It is undisputed fact that Rinaldo Rizzo testified the defendant took a passport of a 15-year-old Swedish girl and threatened her when she refused to have sex with Epstein. So who's Rinaldo Rizzo? Let's see if we can get him in here. Oh man, these are, so Courthouse News is the place where you can get all these documents, it appears. And this one we already have opened up. So which one's, that's the 74 pager? Or was that 174? Is that something new? Hold on one second, guys. That might be one we just have to download right now. We're doing it live. This appears to be a newer one. Yep, this is it. It's a new one. So let's show it in the folder. And you can find it at Courthouse News is where you can get these bad boys. And let's see. Control F and Rizzo. That's one. So as you can see, guys, while we're reading these articles, we are finding the actual documentation here. Let's see if we got another one right. Here we go. So Rinaldo Rizzo was the house manager for one of the defendant's close friends, Eva Dublin. Mr. Rizzo testified through tears how while working at Dubin's house, he observed defendant bring a 15-year-old Swedish girl to Dubin's house. In distress, the 15-year-old girl tearfully explained to him the defendant tried to force her to have sex with Epstein, though threats and stealing her passport. So I'm assuming this is against Ghislaine Maxwell. Yeah, this is all Maxwell stuff. So bringing a 15-year-old girl, threatened to steal her passport. That's lovely. Describe for me what the girl looked like, including her demeanor and anything else you remember about her when she was walking into the kitchen. Very attractive, beautiful young girl, makeup, very put together, casual dress, but she seemed to be upset, maybe distraught, and she was shaking. And as she sat down and sat in the stool exactly the way girls that I mentioned to you sat at Jeffrey's house, with no expression and with their head down. But we could tell that she was very nervous. What do you mean by distraught and shaking? What do you mean by that? Shaking. I mean literally quivering. What did she say? She proceeded to tell my wife and I that, and this is blurting out, not a conversation like I was having a casual conversation that quickly. I was on an island. I was on the island there with Ghislaine. There was Sarah. That's probably referencing Sarah Kalin. She said they asked me for sex. I said no. And she is just rambling. And I'm like, what? And she said, I asked her. I said, what? And she says, yes, I was on the island. I don't know how I got from the island to here. Wow. So she was, wow. I don't know how I got from the island to here. Last afternoon or in the afternoon, I was on the island and now I'm here. So this girl can't remember how she even got to where she is. And I said, do you have this is not making any sense to me. And I said, this is nuts. Do you have a passport? Do you have a phone? And she says, no. And she says, Ghislaine took my passport. These are the monsters, guys. The monsters and their methods are now coming out. Oh, this is a long time coming. These are what these people, she's not in prison. This woman's not in prison, is she? How? And I said, what? And she says, Sarah took her passport and her phone and gave it to Ghislaine Maxwell. And at that point, she said that she was threatened. And I said, threatened? She says, yes. I was threatened by Ghislaine not to discuss this. And I'm just shocked. So the conversation, and she is just rambling on and on again. Like I said, how she got here. She doesn't know how she got here. Again, I asked her, did you contact your parents? And she says, no. At that point, she says, I'm not supposed to talk about this. I said, how did you get here? I don't understand. We were totally lost for words. And she said that before she got there, she was threatened again by Jeffrey and Ghislaine not to talk about what I had mentioned earlier. And that again, the word she used was sex. And during this time that you're saying she was rambling, is her demeanor continues to be what you described it? Yes. Was she in fear? Yes. You could tell. Yes. She was shaking uncontrollably. So let's go up and see if we can get the Figueroa story right here. Oh, and again, look. So we've still got people blacked out. All right. And there's Figueroa right there. So here it is. Who's Sojbig? We might as well just go right through him, right? So what did she do? All right. Miss Sojbig's account of her experience with defendant are chillingly similar. Similar to who? Oh, this is Guffrey and the Lolita Express. As with Guffrey, a perfect stranger approached Sojbig while trolling Miss Sojbig's school grounds. She lured her into Epstein's home under the guise of a legitimate job answering phones, a pretext that only lasted a day. This is a young college student. Nearly 2,000 from home. The defendant soon instructed to massage Epstein and made it clear that Sojbig's purpose was to bring Epstein to orgasm during these massages. So the defendant did not have to do it. And when did you first meet Miss Maxwell? 2001. March probably. So this is an of age encounter. I'm not saying that makes it any more devious or any less devious, but again, I want to focus on some of the more underage stuff and show you what kind of real action. Still, this woman was probably tried to turn into a procurer too, and so she also brings in Prince Andrew here later on too. Miss Sojberg's testimony corroborates Miss Guffrey's account of how the defendant recruited her and others under the ruse of a legitimate job to bring them into the household to have sex with Epstein. Miss Sojberg's testimony also corroborates Guffrey's account of being lent out to Prince Andrew by the defendant, as even the interaction Sojberg witnessed included a sexual act. Prince Andrew using a puppet to touch Guffrey's breast while using a hand to touch Sojberg's breast. Oh, so she was part of one of the threesomes with her. Interesting. Thank you very much for the super chat, Port Film Co-op. It is appreciated. So Figueroa, who's this guy? That's right. He was the bodyguard. Would have threesomes with her. So here's where we get some blackouts too. Okay, and tell me everything that you remember about what Miss Roberts said about being intimate with Miss Maxwell and Epstein at the time. I remember her talking about like strap-ons and stuff like that, but I mean, like I said, all the details are not really that clear. But I remember her talking about like how they would always be using stuff like that. Let's keep going. Other than the prince, is there anyone else that Jeffrey wanted Miss Roberts to have sex with that she relayed to you? Mainly, like I said, just Maxwell and all the other girls. Miss Maxwell wanted Virginia to have sex with Maxwell and him? Yes. And did she tell you whether she had done that? Yeah, she said she did that. And what did she describe having happened? I believe I already told you that. Okay, so maybe some of the more graphic stuff is out just with them. Figueroa also testified the defendant called him to ask if he had found any other girls, Epstein thereby acting as a procurer of the girls. Maxwell would call you directly the time that you were living in Virginia. She would ask you what specifically. Just if I had found any other girls to bring for Jeffrey. So this is yet another procurer for sure. Pretty much every time there was a conversation with any of them, it was asking Virginia whether or not I could get her other girls. Well, tell me, when did Miss Maxwell ask you to bring a girl? Never in person. I was like literally like on the phone maybe once or twice. All right, did Miss Maxwell call you frequently? No. How many times do you think Miss Maxwell called you? I'd say that probably just a couple of times, maybe once or twice, one or two. Let's see. So assistant. And this is the Rizzo one we just read that was extremely disturbing. And Lynn Miller believed defendant became Miss Guffrey's new mama. Lovely. Ugh. Oh, and they have Ricari in here too. So a lot of this stuff looks to be damning to Maxwell. I want to go over some of these exhibits up here and just kind of go through. We've seen a lot of the photographs here. What do we have here? What's this? Man. Juan Alessi, here's Epstein's house manager. What did he testify to? And over the course of that 10-year period of time while Miss Maxwell was at the house, do you have any approximation as to the number of different females that you were told were massage therapists that had come to the house? I cannot give you a number, but I would say probably over 100 in my stay here. I don't think I asked you the right question I was looking for, so let me go back. Did you go out looking for the girls? He goes, no. To bring? Never. As massage therapists? Never. Who did? Miss Maxwell, Mr. Epstein, and their friends. Because their friends relay to other friends, they knew a massage therapist, and they would send to the house. So it was referrals. Let me see. Yep, so there's the sex toys. Wow. It is an undisputed fact that the defendant was unable to garner a single witness throughout discovery who can testify that she did not act as the procurer for underage girls and young women for Jeffrey Epstein. So every single person they talked to, how is she not in prison? And by the way, here are the flight logs and their discussions here. Okay? And why she was traveling with a minor child on 21 flights. Okay? While she was a child, including 6 international flights. Huh. Interesting. So the photographs. Throughout a mountain of briefing, and even in their own deposition and testimony, defendant never offered an explanation regarding Guffrey's photographs of her, the defendant, and Epstein. She never offered a legal explanation as why Prince Andrew was photographed with his hand around Guffrey's bare waist while she was a minor child, while posing with the defendant inside the defendant's house in London. This particular photograph corroborates Miss Guffrey's claims that there is no other reasonable explanation why an American child should be in the company of adults not her kin in the London house owned by the girlfriend of a now convicted sex offender. Miss Guffrey also produced pictures of herself when she was in New York with the defendant and Epstein from a trip to Europe with defendant and Epstein. Okay, so here's some more. There's Epstein right there. There, right there is Ghislaine Maxwell. And Miss Guffrey has produced a number of pictures of herself taken at Zorro Ranch, Epstein's New Mexico ranch, 2 of which are below. Okay? Finally, among other nude photos, which included full nudes of the defendant, Miss Guffrey produced images of females that Palm Beach police confiscated during the execution of the warrant, including one photograph revealing the bare bottom of a girl who appears to be prepubescent. Miss Guffrey will only submit its redacted form. All right? So here's the witness identification letter. The Judith Lightfoot psychological records. I'm not sure who that is, but I think that's Guffrey's psychologist. Okay. Let's see. I want to see what these little pads are. Okay, so these are messages. Other messages demonstrate Epstein and Maxwell's friends, including Jean-Luc Brunel, leaving messages relating to underage females. This is a small sampling of these messages. Wow. So I believe that these are, let's see if we can bring some of those a little bit closer. For Jeffrey Epstein, so do we have their names blacked out? See, this is what I'm talking about. This is where I still think there's redactions, which I don't care for. They name unnamed, but they're not showing all of these people. And yet, you can see here, wants to know if she should bring her friend with her tonight. Signed, I'm not sure. Is that Matrai? I left a message for 11 a.m. I think this is 8:55. Let's continue over. She was wondering if 2:30 has to stay in school. My God. My God. Let's get down here. And this is for Jeffrey. Someone has a girl for tonight. So again, the names are being protected here. Confirmed who is scheduled for the morning. My God. And she's got a lot of these. Available on Tuesday. No one for tomorrow. There we go. See, you see. All right, so I want to say this again. Right here, we're still protected. But Jean-Luc Brunel here is not protected, apparently. So this is him. Just to get a good one. 18 years. Spoke to Jeffrey. Let's see. What do we got here? He has a teacher for you to teach you. This is the 2x8 message that had already been made to the public. I talked about this. Actually, we did a video on this. Let's see. Would be helpful to have Palm Beach. Okay. This one's hard to read. It looks like maybe some of it's been redacted or it wasn't scanned in correctly. Man, so much to go through, guys. And let's bring it back a little bit. Yep, so again, we got a lot to go through. I'm going to take a break. I'm going to be going through these documents. I appreciate everybody's support out there. Again, we're doing 3, 4, 5, 6, sometimes 7 videos a day. We're probably going to do a walk and talk, letting me digest some of this stuff. If you're new to this channel, that's what we do. We do real document deep dives here. Make sure that you're subscribed. Join the Burmese Brigade. What are you waiting for? Share this on social media. Put it out on Reddit. And guys, if you can, this is how I'm doing it, through a GoFundMe. It's you guys. So if you like what I do, it's a no bullshit channel. It's not about right and left. It's not about conservatism, liberalism. It's all about fighting the predator class and revealing what type of monsters they are and their connections and start to bring them down. That's why I do this. So if you can, throw me $5, $10, $15. Buy me some coffee. I appreciate it. With that being said, I will be back. And remember, in a couple hours, I'm going to have Dylan Avery live in an Ask Me Anything. We'll see you on the flip side.